panel fresh up from the stage from their Agents of Change session. We have Marc Pritchard, who is Chief Brand Officer at P&G. He is joined by Queen Latifah, musician, actress and entrepreneur, and also Katie Couric, who is journalist, producer and filmmaker. And Marc is just going to say a few words about the session, just to introduce what happened, and then we'll open for some questions.
Well, welcome everyone, thanks for joining us. We just had a session called Agents of Change. The focus was on really using our creative power to be able to create gender equality in the creative pipeline, so we have gender equality in the creative output. And what we had is three amazing agents of change. Madonna Badger, who you know is the Chief Creative Officer for Badger and Winters, who introduced Women Not Objects, and is now the Glass Slide jury. Queen Latifah, who you all know, and Katie Couric, who you all know. Then we had a special musical performance from Milk, who created the anthem for the Women's March called Quiet, and has another great Agent of Change story on her own. What this group has done is individually and now collectively come together to be agents of change in order to be able to create the equality that we need in the creative pipeline. 29% of ads and media are still objectifying women and stereotyping and having some kind of negative or inaccurate portrayal. We want to get that to zero and have 100% of advertising and media be accurate portrayals and positive portrayals of women and girls. In order to do that, though, we have to get the pipeline equal, because today 32% of chief marketing officers are women, 33% of chief creative officers are women, and only 10% of commercial directors are women. So if you don't have an equal input, how can you expect an equal output? The way we are asking all of the people who watch this to be agents of change is to join the movement, join #SeeHer and UN Unstereotype Alliance, which are about the accurate portrayal of women and girls in advertising and media. Then build a pipeline through Alma Harrell, Free the Bid, so we get a pipeline of women directors. We're doubling the size of that to get thousands of women directors in more than 20 countries, so there's no excuse about not having enough. And then these two amazing change agents are going to fuel the pipeline. So the Queen Collective is a program whereby we will be granting money and mentorship and help to two aspiring women directors to produce content that then Queen will help get that content on something great. Tribeca will help guide those directors along the way, and then companies like P&G, which include Pantene, Head & Shoulders, Tide, and Olay, and My Black is Beautiful, along with HP, along with Smirnoff, will then go fuel that through marketing programs, and we'll do that in partnership with our other partners, Wieden & Kennedy, as well as with Marina Mara Ketchum Plus. So it's a holistic system to be able to fuel the pipeline. And then what Katie's doing is launching Katie Couric Media, which is another way to fuel the pipeline. So Katie, who's been working in so many different things, has now decided she has such boundless creativity, she's going to go out on her own, and she's going to produce her own content. And she's going to then use that, in many cases, female creative talent to help build that talent pipeline, and then we'll go and also fuel that. Again, what our company is doing is we want to sponsor that because we're looking for content that people want to see that is gender equal. So that's the plan. Then in September 28th in New York, we're going to have a showcase with Global Citizen as part of the UN General Assembly Week. We're going to show all this. Madonna Badger is going to curate that along with Phil Thomas from Cannes Lions, because part of fueling success is sharing success. And so we're going to share all the great work that's been done in Cannes along these lines, as well as the work from Queen, the work from Katie, and work from all over the place. So that's the plan. Questions? Yes.
Selin Özkan from Media Cat magazine, Istanbul. So nowadays, a lot of brands are taking action in the fields of gender equality and diversity, and I'm just wondering, how does P&G differentiate itself from all these brands, and is it possible to collaborate with other big brands on this issue, disregarding the element of competition?
That's the beauty of what we're trying to do. P&G is a huge advertiser. We're the world's largest advertiser. We reach 5 billion people with 65 brands. But it's still only a fraction of the advertising budget. So we're choosing to use our voice in advertising as a force for good for gender equality, which is also a force for growth. And we're joining others. So the two movements I talked to you about, the hashtag See Her movement, UN Women Stereotype Alliance, as well as Free the Bid, is a collaborative. There's already 80 companies in these programs, as well as agencies and now media companies. This is something that we compete on the basis of innovation and creativity, but we are united behind a common brief to use our voice of our brands for good. Other questions? One here?
Here, Eva Gonzalez from This Week magazine, Spain. You've talked about creating content for equality. Which are the criteria you apply to detect that the content is equal? Are there or are there not?
Well, I'll start, and I'd love to hear some other experts on this. There is actually a work that has been done by the See Her movement where they look at, it's very simple, accurate and positive portrayals of women and girls. Accurate and positive. So what that means is diverse of all kinds. And it's showing them in roles in which they are present and they are speaking and they are part of the way life really is. And they have what they call a gender equality measure. So what they do is they go through and they measure how much the ads do. I do this once a year. They've done 40,000 ads in our company and many other companies, like what Antonio Lucio has done at HP and Fiona Carter has done at AT&T. We look at our ads and we see how well are we doing. Right now, we're getting better. They have what is called a gender equality measure score that you can then assess. And it's pretty remarkable because you can look at it and say you can tell one that's good and you can tell one that's not. Any other additional thoughts?
Well, in addition to that, our directors will be expected to submit a treatment. So we would like to see what their thoughts are, what specifically their ideas are, what ideas do they want to bring to the world. And when you add that, in addition to all of the measurements that are already be kind of taken into account, I think we're going to get some really creative things that we're looking forward to bringing to your attention.
And I think, I'm looking to create female empowering content that I don't think you kind of measure it. There's no sort of like, okay, is it equal? Is it the same as how you would portray a man? Is there equal exposure to the woman? It's really stories that highlight women's accomplishments, women's struggles. I'm producing 2 scripted projects, one for Netflix based on a Pulitzer Prize winning piece that was written by ProPublica called An Unbelievable Story of Rape, which really kind of examines sexual assault and memory. I'm doing something else called White Houses with Amy Bloom about Eleanor Roosevelt's relationship with Lorena Hickok, one of the most celebrated journalists of the 20th century, a story that really hasn't been told. I want to tell stories that will highlight, as I said, the accomplishments of women. And I think, it's sort of like what the Supreme Court Justice said about pornography. You know it when you see it. I think when content is positive and really highlights the accomplishments and inspires women in a whole host of ways.